Flight School TV, and I'm here with CHC, a leather goods company located in Chicago. And can you introduce yourself to the people?
Sure.
For the people that may not know you.
I'm Shelly Look. I'm the owner, creative director, and maker for CHC.
So, as I told you off camera, like I love to learn on camera with my audience. But I do want to let you know, like I discovered your brand by the collaboration that you got with Ron Lewis.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ron.
Shout out to Ron.
Yeah. If you haven't seen his interview yet, definitely look it up on the Flight School YouTube channel page, and it's a great interview. But that's how I discovered your brand.
Yeah.
And I immediately it caught my attention immediately because I see a lot of things floating up and down my timeline.
Yeah.
But when I see a company like yours that is going against the grain in a real competitive market, as far as like, you know, the hype is always around like Gucci, Louis Vuitton bags, Birkin bags. But honestly, from what I've seen, I don't see any difference as far as quality. As with your approach to what you create.
Thank you.
So, what type of thought process are you in when you go out designing a bag?
First and foremost, it has to be something that I would want to carry, because while my obsession is bags, I inspect them on everyone. It's just kind of the puzzle, if you will, for me, that I can't help but see it out in public and to wonder how it's made. I actually don't like carrying bags, so it has to first be something that I would want to carry, because we all need one, right, to carry necessities. So that's kind of the first thing I go to, and then the next is, how is it actually going to function? Because fashion is art in and of itself. It's an expression from certain individuals, but it carries a certain functionality that a painting on a wall doesn't. So it goes from not only something beautiful and something that I like for the aesthetic that I go for, but how is this actually going to play out and function? And it needs to carry a level of quality in order to last over time, especially with something that's leather, because leather has such a reputation, rightfully so, of being something that can last year after year.
Exactly.
So I need to make sure that the construction of it supports leather's reputation.
Yeah. So, one thing that I do know is that there are, a lot of people may not know, but there's a wide variety of leathers to choose from. Do you have a favorite of yours, like a certain type of leather that I really like this type of leather?
Yes. Right now, part of my line, one of the providers I use is Horween Leather, which is based here in Chicago. Yeah. So I source everything within the U.S. So I have 3 different leather providers, one from Ohio, one from California, and then here in Chicago, Horween. And they're by far the highest quality leather that I've interacted with so far within the States. I haven't had much experience outside of the States with leather, with the exception of Italy. But it's a phenomenal quality of leather, and the standards that they keep are really high, and they're based here in the city, which means that I know that their workers are being treated well, paid well, and I've been able to go and tour their factory and see how the leather is done. But they have a specific leather called Essex Vegetable Tan. So the color through the tanning process is done the oldest school way you can imagine, with actual vegetable dye, and the wear of that over time is kind of up to the consumer. And I love that because it brings a level of like, you might get the product initially having it look one way, but if you wanted to sort of take on the wear over time, because it's done so authentically with a vegetable tanning process, it can take on sort of that beat up look some people like, or you can treat it well with right conditioners and it'll maintain the sheen. So I love that there's a variance of what you can do as an individual who now has a specific type of leather, and with how high of a quality it is, it's fun to sew into and craft.
See, that's why I love doing interviews like this, because I'm like sitting here just like, wow. Like, after everything you said, I'm like,
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm like, because a lot of times I feel like people overlook the process of the actual designing and putting together a product.
Yeah.
And a lot of people see the end goal, like the final product, but don't see the steps that go into
the consideration, every decision.
Right. Yeah. And the fact that like what you do here, and you make sure that you consciously shop with a leather company that's in Chicago, in the States, compared to if you was getting stuff outsourced, you don't know
where it's coming from,
the work conditions in that factory, anything. I think that's honorable.
Yeah, thank you.
So, like you mentioned Italy, like how was that experience in Italy? Like,
It's amazing.
cause I haven't been to Italy yet.
You
I
need to
always
go.
say yes, I
Yeah,
will.
you will go. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
like, what was that experience like? Taking in the atmosphere. What did you bring back with you? Like, what was that overall experience? Like?
How long is this interview? No, I'll try to sum it up.
Yeah, we got as long as you
Yeah. So the initial reason I went to Italy was about a year ago. Someone had advised me it was just sort of hitting a ceiling with my business. It kind of stagnated, wasn't growing, and I couldn't figure out why. And I got some great advice from my mentor, and she was like, you know, if you're looking at the overall macro, but you're also like so in the micro that you just can't see straight. She's like, why don't you consider taking almost like a sabbatical, just like a specific set of time off, but where you go and you just get back to the passion of the making. You hone your craft, you get completely outside your atmosphere. And that's pretty intimidating as a small business owner to take any amount of time off. And it took probably 6 months of prep, maybe a little more than that, to do so. But I found a leather school in Italy. And I mean, the heritage there of that craft is beyond anything I can find in the States. And so I was like, I need to go and do this. So I was there for 3 months in leather school 5 days a week. And then outside of that was just able to explore the different towns around, able to explore, absolutely, yeah. And it was really incredible just to get a taste of that level of craftsmanship. That school's been around since the 50s, and some of the original students are still there. And so I was able to be around craftspeople who've been doing this for 40 years. And to watch that was like, it was humbling because it was like, I know nothing about my craft. You know, like I'm very green, very new, very fresh in this. But it was also exciting because it was like, being able to have a specific amount of time where I was being poured into and just learning and a student, but knowing that coming back, I would be able to take my craft to the next level. You know, like taking time off, which does hurt business, but for the sake of like, I see it as an investment. In the long run, how much this is gonna help me as a designer, as a maker, as somebody running a business. So to say all that, I brought back so much perspective. I took a lot from their culture because it's so different from here. So that was really refreshing. But even from a design standpoint, Italy just has a very specific style that you just see it just oozes. Oozes. So to be around that every single day was, for me as a visually stimulated individual all the time, it was really like a fresh cup of water to be around that.
I'm speaking specifically to that experience because a lot of our viewers, even myself included, we don't often get to see other cultures around the world and realize like how small we are in the grand scheme of the world.
Small, And
a lot of times we think like we the beginning and end of everything, but it's so much bigger than just us. So like that's why I asked that question, and like I want to know what, just to rewind a little bit, what even led you into designing bags? Like what? Let's speak on your early stages. Like leading up to, where are you from? Chicago originally?
No, so I've been here, I don't know how long. I came here for college. Been here a while, 15 years I think. I'm originally from St. Louis.
Oh, okay, so in the West.
Yeah, definitely in the West. But for my high school years, I was in the Peoria area, so right in between. It was a little struggle point for me because you go from one major city and hadn't gotten to Chicago yet. A small town, it was like, this is not going to last very long, but I got to Chicago right away. But the handbag making actually started out of not being able to find a bag I wanted, especially with like how little of a budget I had in high school. I was a sophomore in high school, wanted something very simple, wanting something very basic that I could use every day, and I just couldn't find it.
Simplicity is key.
And it's not as easy as everyone thinks. Like minimal design is not easy at all. Yeah, stripping it down takes a lot of thought and engineering actually. So yeah, I had actually seen my older sister make some like denim bag in her home ec class, and something about seeing her having made that like sparked in my mind like, oh, that could be made. And I remember asking her like, you know, show me how to make it. And she like, you know, older sister. But so I just figured it out. I went and got some denim fabric, believe it or not, some cotton fabric, and just made it. I didn't have a pattern or anything. It was just a matter of like, okay, what do I want this to look like? Very, very basic.
So this is in high school?
High school, yeah, I was a sophomore in high school. This is 2001.
So you actually got into creating your first bags in like homemade class?
Yes, yeah. Well, technically not even in that class. I mean, that's where I kind of learned some of the basics of sewing, but I was just doing it at home because my mom had a sewing machine, and it was like, I'm gonna figure this out. I'd always worked with my hands and wanted to create things, but this was specifically like, to be able to make a 3D object became really fascinating to me. Just because in the Midwest, I don't know, you're just not around as much other different cultures and stuff like that. At least, and so some friends saw it and they were like, "Where did you get that?" And it just sort of, I started making bags for teachers and secretaries and students, my mom's friends, and just sort of started to become this connecting point with people of sort of creating together and having this final visual product that I was like, I really dig this, you know? And it was like a ticket out of small town. So I was like, I'm gonna go to a design school and kind of see what else is in there to develop, you know?
Yeah, see, a lot of people overlook the pride that a lot of people that I sit down with, I would say specifically, it often starts in a sense of like individuality, like this is what I want. It kind of starts in a selfish place,
right?
Then it ends up spreading to something that everybody.
It connects with people,
Exactly. So like that's like to hear that is pretty cool. So after designing bags for people that you was close to, you went to college for it?
Kind of. I went to college. I sort of went more of the business route for college. I went to school for fashion marketing and management because I was like, I was wanting to double major at the time in design and actually get some schooling around what I was just figuring out on my own. But the college I was a part of at the time didn't have a program to let me double major, and so I was like, I thought it would be wiser to go the business route because I was already doing the design. In hindsight, whatever. It happened. So I graduated and I was in retail management for quite a while, but I was always still doing the handbags on the side. And it was a lot of custom work. Some things that I had just were my own designs that people would purchase, but at that time it was a lot of custom work. And then it kind of got to the point where it was like, I was taking up all of my time where I was full-time in retail management, and then when I'd come home, I was fully focused on this thing. Sort of came to this tension point of like, one's got to go. Do I take the risk? I mean, I'm sure you understand. It's just like, it's all consuming, which isn't a bad thing, but longevity-wise, you eventually need to decide whether or not you're going to take a risk. And in 2013, after some planning with my husband and some help from a mentor, decided to take the leap and quit retail management, and was moved into here and decided to go full-time on trying to figure out how to, let me highlight that. Still learning how to figure out how to grow a small business. So
I think that's pretty amazing. And honestly, like we had a conversation off camera, and like I was telling you then, like I honestly feel like we see it in big companies all the time where they sell the story of a brand, and I feel like that's an aspect that get overlooked also, is that sometimes talent isn't enough. Sometimes you can be the most talented person, but people need to hear what we're saying right now. Because if a lot of people can't feel like they're connected to a brand that way, like you can create something and you might have a one-time buyer compared to a lifetime buyer. So that's why I feel like what we're doing right now is very important, and I'm a fan.
I agree. Thank you.
I'm definitely growing more of a fan as we continue to talk.
Thank you.
So, what exactly would you say that you took away? Like, same question I asked about the trip to Italy. Like, what did you take away from college the most? Would you say? Because a lot of people tell me, I ask that question often to people that attended college. And a lot of people would tell me it was mainly the relationships that they established in school, more so than the actual book work and things like that. A lot of people establish relationships in school. What would you say you took away?
It's a really unique question that I'm going to try and answer the best way I know how. I would love to say relationships were the main thing that I took away, but I had a pretty rough life experiences that happened during my college years that kind of pulled me away. So my very first year, I was actually in a school out in the suburbs, and that school just didn't quite work out. So I transferred downtown here, and then right upon transferring and kind of getting back in the flow of this new school, my very closest friend, who was actually kind of working on the brand with me, she passed away. And so
Do you mind me asking how that happened?
she was actually she went to ISU down in I think it's Bloomington. and she was coming up for a weekend because we both happened to have a weekend off, and just to hang out and talk about the brand and just kind of like our future dreams went up just to hang out. And she got in a very bad car accident on the way up, and so she passed away. And so that just, I mean, she was the closest person in my life, and so it just kind of threw, I mean, as you can imagine, like just my life and the trajectory of what's going on, like totally off. And so I was obviously still in school and still working, and so, but just kind of disconnected in a way. Right. And just kind of working through grieving that, and how to still maintain, like living life, how to still maintain having a job and being in school and being in a new school and all that comes with that. Right. And then about a year and a half later, I was in my final year of school, and my older sister was killed. And so,
she
was murdered.
In gun violence?
No, it was a domestic violence situation.
Oh, that's sad.
And so her life was taken, and so that was like another
blow.
Right, another blow. And again, it was like, you know, just sort of mentally, you're kind of just out of the loop of what's going on.
That's exactly
having to go home a lot for different situations that accompanied that, and just the play out of it, trying to be there for my family and myself, because you just kind of...
Exactly, because I lost my brother.
Okay.
And this was a lot more recent.
I'm so sorry.
It was the gun violence. But I can definitely understand where you're coming from, when you just get in the space of trying to figure things out.
Right.
And a lot of, like, I can speak personally, that when it happened to me, it was more so, the initial, like, right after it happened, I almost felt bad for being happy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
If I, like,
you don't know how to laugh.
Yeah, if I see something funny, I'm like, man, I feel like I should still be sad.
Totally.
Like, you know, so
there's like waves of things you go through.
Exactly, it's emotion, so that really can take you away from
completely
what you was doing. So, like, you experienced those two tragic losses. I'm sorry to hear that. But how did you eventually get out of that slump that, you know, that would put you in?
Sure. It took a few years. I mean, creating and designing has always been like an outlet. I think for most artistic people it is. It's a space to just sort of get away from it all.
Exactly. I mean, rappers, musicians,
absolutely.
That's theirs.
Whatever your craft is, it kind of takes you into a healthier place, usually. Or lets you get out all the stuff going on inside. And so I would certainly say that, like, you know, upon graduation, I then got married to still being in retail management. Like, all of these things going on. Still doing it on the side, but probably not nearly as much. And I was struggling with a lot of almost like anger and rage, because the person who had took my sister's life was my brother-in-law. And so it just sends you into some weird spaces mentally. That I was in that place for a few years. Honestly, the thing that brought me out of all of that was I went through about a year-long season of learning how to forgive my brother-in-law, and learning how to release. And I say learning because some people have the ability to do that overnight. I did not. And it was like I'm a praying woman, and so to me it came through some time of prayer, really feeling like I was supposed to pray for him, and I was angry at the thought. Like, he doesn't deserve it, like that's not okay, like no, you know what I mean? But I had some amazing community and some friends around me who were very supportive and very helpful, and just processing what that looks like what does actual forgiveness look like when it's to this extreme? Like, if you just hurt me in life or gossip, whatever, that's one level of forgiveness. But if you like touch my family, like that's a different, it's just a different level of processing and grieving. And so went through a season of learning how to forgive and learning how to actually pray over him, and just releasing him from my own judgment. And he did end up getting convicted. He did end up, he's in prison now. But yeah, I would say honestly that learning how to forgive and even pray over him, there was like a major breakthrough moment for me that just opened up my life in a much healthier manner that allowed me to just focus. Because what I realized was, like, in that grieving and in that judgment that I had towards him, and even in the dark places you go, like the revenge you want to get, it occupies so much space and so much thoughts that once you actually release it, it was like I was 10 times lighter. And I was like, I had more space in my mind and in my everyday thoughts to actually like think creatively and to go into, you know, to think outside the box. And it was just really enlightening of what that process did for me as an artist.
So when I lost my brother, for example, one thing, like, after I reached the point where I was just like, okay, I gotta get over this anger part.
Yeah.
I really started appreciating my time here. Like, it put that part in perspective.
Count your days.
Yeah, to the point where I'm like, I really don't want to waste a day.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's so many people that I knew, like including my brother, that didn't get to live their full life.
Right.
So I feel like if I'm not reaching my potential as a human being on this earth, I feel like I'm almost letting them down.
Yeah, it's almost like you're dishonoring them.
Yeah, like they have potential to live a great life.
Yeah.
And here I am just wasting one.
Right.
So I can't allow myself to do that. I gotta work.
Yep.
So it's amazing to hear your story, and I hope people can really take all that in and appreciate someone that has hit the pitfalls but came out through the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not trying to assume,
sure,
but it seems that those experiences will almost push you.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it'll either push you or it'll pull you completely down. Yeah, and you do reach certain. I mean, I'm sure you're experiencing this even now. There's certain decision points that you have, even in your thought life, of like, which direction am I going to go?
Right.
You know, am I going to go healthy or am I going to go the other way?
Right.
And it's like,
it's
set before
a constant
you know, absolutely.
Especially when something like that is so close to home.
Yeah. And
when it's that close to home, you always got reminders.
Yeah.
Nieces, nephews.
All the time.
It's a constant.
Like trigger points.
Yeah. So, like, I'm definitely speaking from the point of understanding.
Wow.
So, that's an amazing story that you actually came through those situations.
Mm.
So, to speak about where we are now, like we spoke about the quality of the leather that you choose to use intentionally, but like I noticed that when I was looking at your page, I saw all types of bags. It was totes, it was little clutches, it was book bags even. What is the most difficult thing that people probably don't understand? Like, I understand we talk about the leather choosing process.
Sure.
But I know you have to know like the measurements, dimensions of everything, the stitching that make sure that it holds enough weight inside the bag.
Yeah.
Like, can you speak about the technical aspects so people can understand and appreciate what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say probably two of the things that are the most unseen is remaining consistent. Thing about like a factory or goods being produced in a factory, you have one person doing the zipper all day long. So it's going to be like majorly consistent. I use what's called the lean method, which is, and because it's just me right now, but as I grow, I'll continue to use this method. And the lean method is specifically like, you order a bag, I make the entire thing from start to finish. Whereas in a factory, it's like you have the guy that does straps, you have the woman who does the buttons, you have, all doing components to bring together this product. But I like the lean method in regards to like the connection it gives you with the customer. Of like, I know I'm making this whole backpack for you, and I'm going to oversee the entirety of the process.
Right. I think people can appreciate something.
For sure. It's just a matter of them knowing it too, which comes in line with what we're talking about doing today, sharing that story. I'm forever learning how to make sure I share that story, because otherwise you don't know. It just looks like it's made from somewhere else.
I think that's like, if we're going to talk about like marketing and stuff like that, I feel like that's one of the important things, like with your brand, that people understand. Like we did an interview with Sheila Rashid. Yeah. And I'm asking Sheila.
Shout out to Sheila.
Yeah, shout out to Sheila. Great person. Like, I'm asking her similar questions to what we're saying. Yeah. And I often like to provide perspective for people that may be consumers of your product. Right. Because with Sheila, for example, a lot of people don't understand that she makes each pair of jeans by herself. Yeah. So if she gets 100 orders in a week, let's say, it's going to take time to get those orders out. And sometimes people grow impatient, they're unprofessional, and not understanding fully, like, hey, the specialty of the product. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I'm putting my sweat, my fingerprints on each item that's leaving my store or my shop. You should understand, like, when you shop with me, it's not from a factory in China.
Totally.
it's from actually my hands touching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think people should learn to appreciate things like that a little bit more. That's why I ask the technical questions.
Yeah.
So, like, as far as like the zippers and everything like that, so like, how do you put a bag together? Not asking for like ABC.
Yeah.
More so like the general concept of like, okay, well, do you draw it first?
Sure. Yeah, so I start out with idea and then kind of sketch it out, but I mean, I'm sure as you know in your own life, sometimes a 2D idea doesn't actually turn out appropriately in 3D. Sometimes it looks really great in your head, but once it's manifested, you're like, this is not what I envisioned.
Exactly.
So I typically do, from idea to sketches, whether that's just sketching a couple of features or the wholeness of the bag, always starts with some type of sketch, and then I actually usually make like a miniature little leather sample of it, just to give myself, and it won't have every detail.
Right.
It'll have the mentality of what I'm going for, just to get that, like, could this actually work in leather? And I don't want to use a whole bunch of leather to test it out.
Right.
I did that when I was younger, didn't realize how expensive that would be with all my mistakes. But after I make the miniature and I can kind of work through some of those specific details, I'll usually make either a fabric sample or like a fake leather sample to really allow it to come to life a little bit more. That also allows me to refine my pattern. If it's something that I'm going to keep making several of or intend to, I'll make sure that I have the appropriate pattern. Again, going back to consistency, to make sure that what you see online is the same for each and every 10 people that order that in a week. And it's not something varied just because I was lazy and decided to just make them one-off, So yeah, and then it goes back to refining the pattern, and then it's like bringing out the leather, cutting the leather, and I also do edge finishing. So something that's really important for the quality of the bag over time is you'll notice this on different leather goods, but if you look at the edge of something, whether or not it's been finished, often if it's not finished, you'll see that it kind of frays, which isn't bad. It's just a specific type of aesthetic. I like mine a little more refined. So there's different types of like chemicals and machinery involved to make sure that that edge gets smoothed out and also covered and protected over time so that it keeps from fraying and maintains the quality of the product over time. But you may not have any idea that any of that's going on.
No, I really didn't. That's why I'm so fascinated.
Yeah. And so it's just a matter of, once the pattern's done, cutting into the leather, working on the edges and details, and then making the final finished product.
I did not know any of that.
I didn't either when I started out. I had no idea how involved it would be.
I'm learning how much we should all appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's really technical. So I know that we spoke about the collaboration with Ron Lewis. Do you have any other collaborations that you've done in the past or that you're looking forward to doing?
I'm pretty selective with my collaborations, honestly. I don't have a whole lot of time for them, so to me they're more passion projects than anything. Like, I have to have a type of chemistry with the other designer. I have to be able to envision where they're going, because at the end of the day, even if his name is on it or his brand name is on it, in a way my name is still on it. Yeah. So I want to make sure that whatever goes out in the general public, regardless of whose name is on it, if mine's going to be there, it needs to live up to a certain standard. Right. And depending on what that other designer is going for, whether it's price point or aesthetic or market, I need to make sure that there's an alignment. Yeah. So I haven't done a lot of collaborations, especially not recently. I used to in the past, but they tended to be more personal and less like other brands, especially other clothing brands, because that's so specific. Yeah. But yeah, I met Ron about a year or so ago, and we were just able to, we didn't know how we would work together or if we would. There was just sort of like a collaborating even with ideas of what it's like to be in the fashion realm within Chicago. And so we just stayed in communication, and he had some ideas, and it was like, let's just kind of mull over them, and didn't even know if it would turn into anything. Yeah. And he actually reached out to me on a totally different product that we're kind of in the middle of working on together. And as I was looking at his collection, I just got super inspired, and I was like, he needs a bag. He needs a bag in this, he needs a bag, and I can't help myself. I'm like, so just for fun, I designed and had a couple ideas just for like, if I were to design a leather bag for your collection that you're making, here's what I think it could look like. And just was like, hey, what do you think? And we just started going back and forth, inspired. And it was like, let's just try it. Let's just kind of see, let's test out a couple and see how it meshes with all of it, did the photo shoot, and now, yeah, we'll see where it goes. But it's just been for me, it's just a passion thing to keep my love for the craft alive. Because sometimes when you're just sort of doing everything over and over and over,
from.
I still love it, but you just need something fresh to get you outside of like the everyday mentality.
That
Absolutely.
energy.
Yeah, and to get in different environments. Like I love working with, doing different shoots and just getting in spaces that aren't just one secluded bubble of my own world, So, and I love being in environments where people are actually doing and not just like talking about it, and Ron's definitely one of those designers. So
yeah, shout out to Ron. Make sure you check out his interview that's on Flight School TV. Ron Lewis interview, Flight School TV. Great interview. But while we're right there, I want to stay right there for a minute. And let's talk about the fact. Oh, and by the way, I did want to say, you guys just learned how fashion creatives collaborate. You know how rappers collaborate. They get in the studio, they battle off each other, and she just basically laid out the process of fashion creatives in the fashion world, how they collaborate. So now you understand that part. So I didn't want to say that, but I also want to talk about how fashion is a unifier, because we live in a divisive time right now. Like, it's like it almost seems like they're trying to make us either on this side or on this side, and there's no middle. But there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
There's no just because I agree in this, I don't like.
Right.
We have different things that we agree on and disagree on.
Right.
So, like, can you speak to that? Because I think that's something that often gets overlooked.
Sure.
How much fashion unifies people.
Yeah.
And, like, for sneakerheads, for example.
Sure.
We can all go to a sneaker con, complex con, or something like that. And a conversation will start between me and you about the shoes. Like, man, I love those. Like, oh, I don't have those yet. How do they feel? And that creates a dialogue that normally probably wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And fashion is also one of those vehicles, I would say, that drives conversation between people.
Yes.
And it creates dialogue between people. Can you speak about that, like, as far as your experience in fashion?
Yeah, it's a matter of, I think there's a level of humility that you have to have in realizing that we don't all have this figured out. Yeah. Like, I can have my own opinions and convictions all day, but at the end of the day, I'm probably wrong in so many of them, and you are too.
Yeah.
But it's like, if we're gonna let that be the separating factor, none of us are going anywhere.
Right.
And as a designer, you're an artist, and artists, whether or not they get the credit for it, they really lead the way on culture. And so if there's ever going to be any progress within a culture, you need artists to be secure enough in themselves to be able to like cross paths and to do so healthily.
Yeah.
I think something that I came across earlier when I was much, much younger as a designer was feeling really intimidated by other designers because I didn't fully know myself as a designer. Right. And that's a legit thing, right?
It's a learning process.
Absolutely. But once you start to realize that like I bring something to this world and a perspective that absolutely nobody else has. From my story, from my past, from my current experiences. So what comes out of me is going to be unique in and of its own voice, and the very same for you, but yours is also going to be different from mine.
Right.
And so yes, people might copy, people might pull from, but you can't take the source.
Right.
So I could be copied and stolen from all day, but at the end of the day, I'm still leading the way on this thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so having that security to be able to like go up to another designer who is very different, and that's okay, but having an appreciation for your difference as much as I hope that you have for mine. And realizing that conversing with someone who thinks differently is going to pull me, again, out of my own bubble, out of my own perspective, to just think about things differently. And that's how any progress, any change happens, is a thought is interjected that wasn't thought before or known to be thought. Right. So for me, it's a matter of getting with other artists who just look at things differently, who talk about things differently, who ask questions that I wouldn't think to ask, that just sort of spark different, I think, neural pathways to get me out of my own head and help me to really like see designs in a totally new way. Whether it's something we're collaborating on or something I'm currently doing, I've now been interjected with a different way to think about it that's going to help what I'm already doing flourish. Yeah. So I think it's a necessity to be able to collaborate and to come together with people who don't think the same way.
Right.
Otherwise you never grow.
I think that's the main thing. I think, honestly, a lot of problems that we see in the world right now is just from lack of understanding of each other.
Absolutely. And, empathy. No empathy.
Yeah. Like, respect other people's opinion and choices. But that shouldn't be an end. It should be a start.
Right.
as you was talking about your connection with Ryan, I was like, man, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Because he thinks very, very differently, but it's like, oh, wow, like you just opened up something that I wouldn't even.
Right, and I'm pretty sure you did the same for him.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Shout out Ryan.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty dope. So, like, how do you feel about the fashion scene in Chicago? Like, do you feel like it's like a lot of people will say it's similar to like a California type feel where it's like a circle of people, but and it's hard. Like I did an interview with Brittany Perry from Perry Co. Shoes. And she was saying that she originally from like Indiana, I believe she said, and she was telling me how hard it was to get to know the right people in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't think about it because I'm from Chicago.
Yeah.
And I grew up around these people.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it from her perspective. I'm like, you know what? She's probably right. It is probably, if you're an outsider coming into Chicago, it might be a little difficult.
Yeah, knowing where to go, who to talk to,
exactly.
Where to start.
Your experience being, even though you spent a lot of your life in Chicago, like, how do you feel about the scene in Chicago as far as the aspect I just spoke about?
Yeah. And
also the aspect of our growth.
Yeah, I think it's challenging. But I don't see that in a negative way. I see it as like, we're at the beginning of something that I don't know how to fully describe with Chicago, but you know, when you go to New York or you go to LA or you go to Paris, which is the main place that people go after fashion school, totally get it. They already have things built. They have constructs, they have systems, they have fully functioning everything that you just sort of have to enter into and hope to make your way up. Whereas here, we don't really have anything to enter into, which I actually love because in my mind, it's like, it's a fully level playing field, which means we have opportunity to build. But you have to have the drive, the grit, and the want, and the eyes to see what could be built.
Right.
And so I actually used to be really discouraged by the scene here because as a business owner, it's costly. It's hard to be here. It's hard to sustain a business here. There's the very practical end. But in regards to actually like helping build culture and connection, there's a segregation factor here in Chicago too. To have to like work around and again get yourself in different circles to like bring a unified voice and actually get some collaboration moving. So there's that element. But it excites me to think about like if I'm really in this for the long haul and I look down 10, 20 years, I'm going to be one of the first to help build what just wasn't here. And that's exciting. It's a bit intimidating, but it's also a matter of like the technology that we have, the abilities that we have today, like there's no reason not to like get excited about it in my mind, but you just have to be able to see it in an opportunity standpoint. And I used to think really, really short term, like I've got to accomplish every vision and goal I have in the next 5 years. It's like, well then what? You know, and for the dreams that I have and the vision that I have, it's going to take me 20 to 30 years to build it. Do I have it in me to stick it out and go and ride the waves of doing that here? I do now, I didn't before. But yeah, to me, it's just a matter of continuing to chip away and to put brick by brick rightfully down. And yeah, building community has just been a matter of like continuing to reach out. It's not always gone as fast as I wanted, but it's trying to find myself in different spaces that I'm not usually in and just getting connection points with different people. And I mean, you learn over time. Some people you vibe with, some people you don't, but regardless, I'm still going to support you because you're doing your thing here, you know? So I can't imagine what it's like to come in out of a totally different, I mean, it's probably very similar. You just got to step one, step two, step three. I think we tend to live in a space where we want it all right now, and that's just not the reality of anything. If you're truly going to build something well, it takes time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the argument that you want microwavable food. Or
Absolutely. Yeah, I want it crispy, you know?
Exactly.
Parmesan crust. Do it right.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, what does CHC stand for?
It's Shelly Harms Collection. So Shelly I spell with a C. Harms was my maiden name. And so that was just the name that I came up literally 2001. And I was like, I should have a brand. And I just did CHC. And so it has just sustained itself.
So if people hear this interview and they love your story, they want to get behind your what you got going, where can they find you?
Yeah,
Social
media is at ShopCHC, and then my website is shopchc.com, and you'll find everything on their blogs, updates, all my product, everything going on.
Yeah, so all you ladies and all you fellas, that love to do a lot of shopping, love to make sure that your bag is on point, whether you rocking a fancy book bag or a tote or a clutch. Make sure that you look her up. You heard the story. I mean, how can you not love her after hearing the story? And definitely get in tune, man. It's Flight School TV. We out.